Hey guys, welcome back to Parkitect. In this episode, we're going to explore the second to last campaign. Technically speaking, there is a surprise one here in the clouds, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to adventure into Zalgonia. A mansion with a large mountainous estate is believed to be haunted, so you are able to purchase the land for a low price. You can attract enough guests to turn the estate into a thriving theme park, despite the ominous legends, horrifying weather, and ghoulish terrain. Ooh, this is going to be good. I like it. So let's see here. 500 guests in your park. That sounds doable. Happiness rating 75, doable. No loan debts, very doable. Have 250 guests, that probably unlocks a ride. And then do this by year 5. Oh, I'm so not going to do that. So let's go see. Yeah, I can see already the continue button. That's because I've already started, technically speaking. But I need to get this intro out. But let's go see the map, because I've already worked on a little bit. But let's pause. So here's the top of the mountain. This is what the little mansion here. I like this mansion. Sylv did a pretty good job using some of the cooler pieces. I can see that cable piece was used here, right there, and some other things. Okay, so yeah, this map is quite mountainous. There's a lot going on here. So the plan for me is to build some type of Darkmoor / monsters thing. So I like this crevice here. I like this area down here. This could be like a village in this spot right here. And then a big manor could be on top of here. And that's kind of what I've been envisioning. Yeah, there's some pretty good stuff here. Let's go see the ride selection in the beginning. Car ride, double Ferris wheel, ghost mansion ride. I'm going to use that for the dark ride I'm thinking about. Haunted house, I'll probably have to place that somewhere soon. Gravitron, transformer, turbine, pretty good. Inverted power and steel. Inverted's a pretty fun coaster. We can make a Nemesis type coaster, right? That can kind of follow the terrain. I would probably love to do that. Suspended monorail, that's an interesting choice. And no water rides. I don't think any water rides are in here at all. Even though I'm probably going to make this a lake, because I think adding a water feature always to a park is a plus. There's no reason not to. Food, burgers, custom stall, hot dogs. Yeah, your typical stuff. Scenery. Ooh, we got some things to research. So like adventure, candy, fantasy, and sci-fi. Because I need that science fiction stuff eventually. But everything here is pretty spooky already. I want to try to stay away from like Halloween tropes, but it's hard not to when it's like this map is very Halloween-y. But that's kind of what I'm trying to figure this out. But yeah, let's I think I have some ideas. So village down here, manor up here, maybe a gypsy village down here with a wooden coaster themed to the werewolf. Things like that. That's what I'm thinking. Let's see if I can crack this one in. So yeah, let's get on to the time lapse. Okay, let's get started. So first things first, I wanted to add a body of water to the map, because adding water to a map, I feel, adds a center point or an anchor in your map. And most theme parks have a body of water in them, so I felt like that was a really nice environment to add, and it adds like kind of a centerpiece to my map to kind of branch off from. So that was the main idea for that, because I also thought that my little village should be near a body of water like most villages are. So that was the initial thought for that process, and especially being on this type of map, Zalgonia being such mountainous area, adding water to the map was I think the right direction to go, because I didn't want to leave it empty. So first I wanted to try out making some docks with the randa pieces and the poles, change some of the colors, because since we got those changes in 1.10, it's nice that I can use that randa piece more freeing. Like, I can use it in so many other builds now. It's wonderful. So this is just getting my basics down. I just wanted to get the feel of the map. Again, working with a blank map is also so hard sometimes because it's blank canvas syndrome. It's just, yeah, I just had to put something down to start, or I was going to sit on this map for even longer than it took me to work on, because this map was, I want to say it's a 26-hour build, but it was spread upon like 5 or 6 months. So that happened because I had ran out ideas, or I didn't have any inspiration, so that kind of happened. But that's kind of how the process goes, honestly. Like when you are a creative or an artist, you go through those woes here and there, and you kind of have to work through them to go to the next step, because I don't want to force my creative side to produce content, because I think it will produce not as high as quality as if I took it at my own pace. That's just the philosophy that I've held. So I don't know if it's true or not. It might be, might not. But regardless, I did finish the map finally. So here's some of a brick idea I wanted to try out to make it like very organic and kind of like messy, because this place is supposed to be like a haunted village, and it's kind of just pieced together very haphazardly, like it's not really done properly. So kind of just did bricks hand placed, not even on the grid, and kind of had them jetting in and out of the surface, just kind of like, yeah, the bricks are just laid very lazily, and they just kind of put it together and then called it a day. So I kind of wanted to go for that look of that jankiness of this little village, and to give it that, well, I honestly believe that when you get away from the gridness of Parkitect and make it more organic feeling and make it more messy, it looks just better for some reason. Like your brain just for some reason completes the connections, and you're like, hey, it looks really unique and organic because nothing's symmetrical. Because in reality, life is not symmetrical. So that was kind of the philosophy on doing that. And here I'm working on the first restaurant building. Yeah. So the big inspiration for this entire map was Epic Universe and Darkmoor, or Dark Universe. And I used a lot of pictures from ArtStation this round, and a lot of like spooky villages and stuff like that. Oh, and also Department 56, well, again, came really strong on this one. So Department 56 makes little model houses for your dining room table, or for your like banister, stuff like that. They're made of ceramic, and they have a very unique Halloween collection. And so I kind of went through their catalog and looked at some of their buildings, and it's nice because those little buildings like have a story included in them. So you can have one and it completes itself, but you can also add more to your collection, and it adds more to your story. It's actually quite nice. I love these little models, and using that as my inspiration really helped further my building techniques and building these little cottages or taverns or whatever you want to call them. Kind of wanted to kind of focus on each little building separately, and then they cohesively start adding to themselves together as I build more of this little dinky little village. So that's kind of what it went for. And again, I'm also trying to, it's hard, here's the thing, it's hard to not reinvent the wheel, because I've used so many of these techniques over and over again. So designing roofs, designing buildings, sometimes I get bored on making those same shapes. So I sometimes try to reinvent myself, but in reinventing myself, it takes longer for me to produce a product. It's kind of weird. So I try to remind myself that it's okay to repeat a skill, because that skill was already honed down and mastered, basically. So in this whole build, I wanted to also make sure that all my roofs were overhanging. So every roof in this build had to be custom built, so I knew how to go from there. Now I had a choice. The choice was either make really customized roofs or ignore that feature and focus on more interesting details for those buildings, because every roof didn't have to be customly tiled, and I could have done that with every building, but that would have taken me forever, and I didn't have the energy to do that. So I just did simple square roof using cubes at the 45-degree angle, and then angled them put them down, and then overhang the building. Because once you get to the point where you're making overhang roofs, it kind of makes the building even more unique and special. Because in Parkitect, you can't do that. Like original, well, this is vanilla by the way, but like if you just built a simple building in Parkitect, you can't do overhanging roofs. But with the shapes, you can. I also just reminded myself that the other inspirations that I used this round were some Lego mocks that I found on Instagram and Reddit, that they were like haunted cottages. That actually really helps too. Yeah, Silver has said this before, and I'm going to also repeat it again, that like Lego models apparently, or Lego sets in particular, translate really well to Parkitect and very easy to kind of pull inspiration from because of how they're built with bricks. Bricks are squares and rectangles. Parkitect is grid-based, so it translates really well. Same thing with like pixel art and or like isometric game art that are like off of ArtStation also translate well too. So that is very, very useful here. So what else could I talk about here? I'm trying to focus this discussion. Yeah, it's just another cottage, going away from being squares, doing more rectangles, because I think rectangles are more interesting to look at for a building. Trying to do some different roof play, so having roofs intersect with each other makes it more organic and unique. I also think that adding a different grid, no, not grid, it's more like different sizes per level per building, like each story should have a different shape, I think adds a uniqueness to the building. Because I've seen like a new player would build a building, and as they get taller it looks still unified, and I think that like the bottom should be like tapered off, like smaller, and the building as it gets bigger, it gets a little bit bigger on the next level and then go from there. Balconies also is a more interesting thing to add to a building. And I also believe that there's a scale limit for Parkitect. It's kind of a weird thing to try and describe, but I feel like when it comes to designing a theme park, especially in this game or maybe a Planet Coaster or a Roller Coaster Tycoon, that some buildings will look properly placed in the world versus other buildings when you start working on stuff. So like for a pathway, I feel like 2 paths is wide enough for a theme park. 3 is a little bit okay, getting quite large, but once you get like to the 5 to 6 path length or width, it kind of looks very big and out of place. Same thing with, I think, with certain type of show buildings that you build in like Parkitect. Like if you're trying to build a dark ride, it depends how big the building is. All of this I'm saying is also very subjective. So if you think that 6 paths wide is fine, that's fine. That's okay for you, but I won't necessarily think it's okay. But again, it's all subjective. It's just all opinion. But I think there's a certain like scale guide that I follow to make sure that my parks look somewhat cohesive. So we're going to jump on to the next thing. This is the first coaster that gets... Actually, I think it's the first ride I get to build. So this ride went through a whole bunch of iterations because of where I placed it, and I needed to make some money because at this rate, I'm going to lose all the funds that I made, or the funds that I started with. Because I knew that going through this whole project, I had other plans in mind. I was going to build a giant castle. I was going to build a gypsy camp with a wooden coaster. I knew I was going to build all these things, and I knew I had to build a coaster in the beginning to fund my expensive theming. So I went with a invert, and this invert's going to be modeled after Banshee. And I forgot what park that's from. I'm going to Google this right now because I should know. Banshee, where? Oh, Banshee coaster. Where are you from? What park? Kings Island. Ah, there we go. Kings Island. Yeah, so this coaster is just going to be kind of modeled by it, and also modeled by, or inspired by, Nemesis, because it is going to be a terrain invert. So I was going to place it against this mountain. So far, it's looking good. I had some issues with some like of the speed things and making sure that the tunnels were kind of being part of it. Again, I don't like the tunnels in Parkitect. I try to get rid of them as best I can, making custom tunnels out of rocks myself because it looks cleaner and neater. These tunnels are kind of like egregious, but that's kind of what makes Parkitect unique, is that you can put any coaster in the ground all you want, which is kind of cool. Like gameplay wise, that's neat. But for like my aesthetically pleasing eye, nah, it does not work for me. So I'm just kind of experimenting with different elements. It goes into a corkscrew, into I think a dive loop, and then a barrel roll? Technically speaking, it's not a dive roll. It's a 0G roll. This is not even the final layout, by the way. This is actually, this layout changes one more time. Like more like the end part actually changes because I didn't like how the train was entering the station. And in this run, I didn't want to do any transfer track shenanigans. I just didn't have the energy and or the brain power to kind of like rearrange it to add a realistic transfer track. I just didn't care to do that. So this was kind of just... So the first thing, actually, trying to get back on track here. This is going to be the building for the station for Banshee. I think I just called it Banshee, actually. The connection between the main village down at the bottom of the screen is connected to the top of the park. So the guests actually go underneath this coaster and then end up coming out of this building. So it's kind of like an interesting concept. I don't know what the tunnel would show. I think the tunnel would maybe show like dioramas of like spooky stories maybe. And kind of like a cavern. That's what I would imagine. Because there's things that I didn't get to design in this game because Parkitect only is limited in its view. But I would have just imagined that this park designed some type of storytelling element that kind of suggests why you're coming out of the cave and out of the... I want to say this is like the main hotel of the village. Yeah, I think so. Now this building was kind of like the... How would I put this? Scooby-Doo-esque building, because like very Scooby-Doo-y, like it's very weird. It doesn't really match the rest of the buildings, which is kind of a weird thing I did. But at the end of the day, I kind of liked the building being very stand out. It stood out, honestly, it did. So I did some overhanging shenanigans again with a different technique. I added an additional layer just to add like wood trimming, and then added a purple roof on top, and then went to town. That took a while. Most of the custom roofing in this session was a lot of placing and a lot of blueprinting. Blueprinting does help me in the long run because that is always a very useful thing for me to do. So yeah, that's how that works. So we just do I finished some pillar accents on the building and nothing too crazy. I'm just kind of watching myself put this together. And God, this was a while ago, I think. Yeah, this was at least... Well, the day of recording, this probably was at least 5 to 6 months ago. So I'm seeing the techniques I've used. Yeah, I remember doing that. Remember using the hexagon pieces. Yeah, the hexagon pieces are wonderful. I love having those pieces available because they're great. Ever since RoboPark, those pieces are like the best. And the shapes and everything, I can't wait for the new DLC, honestly. Like, if this new DLC comes out this year, it's all about scenery. Man, what am I going to do with that? I'm going to do something. I have to either save it for the Taste of Adventure campaign. Actually, I should. Or use those new pieces for a new campaign that I make, which I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about making a new campaign. So I have that actually working in the background. I don't want to say too much about the campaign, because I do have Season 2 to maybe port over, but I haven't even touched that yet. So yeah, it's a thought, actually. This is a really cool technique I enjoyed doing. It was these circle, squarish looking windows. This is like very... What do you say, Oriental? No, more like European. And then I added a yellow tint to certain windows, suggesting that the lights were on. So I think that was kind of a cool idea. It kind of helped sell the idea that the building's alive. I think adding lights to your windows or a immersion of light coming out of the windows adds life to it. And those are the little details I try to add to all my builds. And I encourage you guys to do so too, because it just adds an extra layer of storytelling. Yeah, you just see me just put more random details on these things. So we're going to wrap it up here to do the break. The break will tell you, well, I'm going to describe my next ideas, or what's the plans for the rest of the map. So let's go over there. Okay, welcome to Zalgonia so far. This is the park at the halfway point. So, we've already been in the park for a while. Well, this save's pretty old actually at this moment, but regardless. This is what the park looks like so far. Operations are at full capacity to a degree. I do have this little makeshift park generation area where I'm just generating more money because I need the cash and capital to build my structures that I want to do eventually. This transformer ride is actually permanent. It will be decorated with like some type of ruins or temples or something, maybe some ruined brickwork. These are all temporary rides. Yeah, they're all temporary rides. Nothing much is going to go on there. But like the main focus in the beginning was to get this coaster redone. And I actually redid the entire layout off camera. So in the time lapse, you saw me build a layout, and it was a different layout from what is now what you see here. I completely redid the entire area. I even got rid of some of the mountain, made some like quarry area or like cutaway thing, and then kind of made it more an intense coaster, because I think the problem was the first layout didn't give me enough intensity, and the ridership was very, very, very low. But once I finally decorated the area and have this station finally built, the attendance of the coaster gone up. I think, let me see it with the, yeah, look, the queue line is basically full at this point. So I'm having full trains now finally cycle. I'm quite happy with it. Now it's going to finally make me money. In the beginning it was struggling a little bit. But yeah, here's the little village so far. I don't have a name for the village at the moment. In my head it's called Darkmoor because I'm copying what's at Universal Epic Universe, but it could be called something else. I don't really have a name for it yet, but I'm planning on finding a name for it eventually. The next couple projects is to build this, I'm going to build a fishing hut of some sort to kind of cover up the souvenir stand that I built off camera, and a restroom. Yeah, that's the toilets. Oops. And then I'm going to decorate and make this more incorporated into the park's theme. Start moving these rides around, maybe either keeping some of them that I like, getting rid of a couple, especially getting rid of this coaster because I don't want it. But like in this area right here, I want to do like a gypsies camp, and then you use the wooden coaster to have a coaster theme to a werewolf. That's what I want to do. And then eventually the main objective of this project is to make a pathway go up this mountain, go where the manor is, flatten the manor, and build a Frankenstein style dark ride like from Epic Universe. So that would be like the Frankenstein's Manor, right? I want to build that and then actually build a dark ride with cutaways. So now I want to use the Ghost Mansion dark ride. I'm going to use that. I want to, and that's the idea. So I have a couple. Yeah, that would basically finish out this park. It would flush it out, and then it probably would reach my goal. What's my goals again? Oh yeah, 500. I'm almost there anyway. Honestly, if I did, yeah, all what's keeping that number from even generating more is the soft guest cap. Like, I need more rides. If I added a couple more attractions, especially another roller coaster that's high capacity, a couple more flat rides, a dark ride to be exact, it will go up to 500 guests, and I would actually win the scenario. But yeah, this is the campaign. This is the Zalgonia so far. Actually, let's ride the Banshee, because I keep forgetting to even showcase the rides with you guys. So this one was a fun little one. It's a fun little coaster. I'm glad I redid the layout, honestly. It worked out better. And I like that it kind of like incorporates itself into the mountain. So it's kind of, again, a very, was it Nemesis feel to it. Yeah. It's a pretty nice looking coaster, actually. I did custom catwalks for it. I haven't done that in a while. So it's kind of fun to go back to some of the roots of certain things I usually do. You go into this Immelman, into a couple corkscrews, into a dive loop, and then you try to just traverse the rest of the way there by doing one more inversion. But I like all the close calls with the rock work and stuff like that, but I think some of it's clipping through it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it provides the thrill that my guests want, and it works really well. So the next projects, so we're going to work on one of the village huts near the water, work on that gypsy camp, and then hopefully work on that manor. So let's get on building on. Okay, on to the next phase of this project of Zalgonia. So since I built the village, well, most of the village, I think I needed to add one additional building, and this was going to be a fisherman's hut or fisherman's tavern or lodge, or I don't know what else you would call it. But I felt like having a building near the water felt more appropriate, and I needed another building to house a restroom and looks like a souvenir shop from what I can tell. Yes, a souvenir shop. Yeah, I just needed to add those things. And this is nothing unique with this one except for maybe like a different roof pattern I tried. It was like you'll see in a moment, but I just wanted to make it more rustic looking building. Yeah, that's the full thought there. So I'm just messing with cubes, some pillars, some fences, using the spooky wall set for my wooden texture. Now when it comes to like planks of wood, I like using either the spooky walls, or there's a generic wall that has just wood lines on it, like wood grain. I like using that as well, but this one's more 3D, so I use that. The green roof you can see is the different pattern. I wanted to have this tapering off thing where the edges of the roof was kind of like not completed, so kind of suggesting the wood was kind of peeling. But again, it was very unified, but I think it worked out pretty nicely. It kind of made it unique. And then also to make a building off the grid in a way is building towers in a center of a grid space. So that's what I did here. I kind of protruded out toward the dock or the edge of the water, kind of made it different, and then matched it with the same colored roofing as before. That helps with making it more unique and off the grid. Again, I want to do that whole off the grid shenanigans because it kind of makes it more unique and not making everything symmetrical. That's kind of the whole point here. And adding some different details on the wood and the pillars. Honestly, like, what I'm doing here mostly is winging it and kind of feeling of the building. Honestly, this is I believe sometimes, like, when it comes to like artists, sometimes when we do things, we really don't know what we're doing, and that's perfectly okay. It's okay if you don't know what you're doing. Even though I've played this game for, what, 5,000 hours? I still don't know what I'm doing half the time sometimes. It's like, I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm feeling like this looks okay. This looks all right. And then I move on to the next project. Now, getting stuck on that term of like, okay, is this perfect? That's where you kind of go down the rabbit hole. So I try not to stay in that moment too long. So I want to finish a building, look at it for a second, be like, yeah, I believe it. I think it's... That's okay, and then just walk away. That's what I hope that you you can get from this video, is that it's okay to wing it sometimes and letting the moment kind of flow. So on to the second coaster that gets added to the park. This is going to be the wooden coaster themed to a werewolf. So this coaster was... I don't think I had any inspiration for it. Did I pull it one? No, not from my memory, but I knew I needed to keep it like terrain based. Why am I thinking it's like this this coaster was inspired by the Beast. It might have been, but I have this in my head. How funny. I don't think it was modeled after the Beast. It was just kind of just winging it here too. Just kind of getting the curves of a wooden coaster, kind of swoop in and out, do a lot of bunny hills and giant turns, and kind of just hug the terrain. That's kind of what I wanted to do, because I feel like if I made the coaster too tall, it would kind of look daunting and kind of out of place. And using the terrain as a restriction makes, I believe, coaster designing or designing in general come out more naturally, because when I have restrictions, it makes you think outside the box, and then you go from there. So like this wooden coaster actually has more underground play than I usually would do, because I don't know how realistic that would be, putting a coaster underground. If it is like, let's say it's a more earthquake prone area, I think you would stay away from putting things underground versus a place that has no earthquakes. But again, I don't know the full details when these things happen, because I know there's a coaster, oh man, there's a wooden coaster that goes underground and goes underneath the parking lot, and I think it's called Hades. I forgot what park it's from, but it's like, that's cool. How did that become, like, how did they design that? So kind of like have that thought process of realistically, but at the end of the day, this is also a game, and in like a video game, I can do all sorts of weird imaginative shenanigans. And that's why I think what draws me to games like Parkitect or Planet Coaster or Roller Coaster Tycoon, that we can imagine the wild ideas. So it kind of went from there. So next is the building of the gypsy camp. So I had this in my head that, because this is themed to werewolf, I pulled the inspiration from the spinning coaster that's being built for Dark Universe in Epic Universe. So I wanted to try building tent pieces out of roofs, because there's only a couple pieces that represent tents in this game. So there's two pavilions, so a square one and a triangle one, an actual tent from the adventure pack, and I think that's it. Those are the only two pieces that resemble cloth. So the challenge was, can I imitate cloth by using just static roof pieces? To a degree, I think I've accomplished it, because there's some certain details that tell you in your brain that this is a cloth, not a roof. So adding cables onto the side, suggesting those are ropes being taut, kind of helps with that detail. Kind of fills in that it's like a clue, honestly. That's what I'm trying to do. And then using these new roofs that we got as the high peak part of the tent actually sold it more for me. And then making them super high, like really high like this, made it very whimsical. And again, that's what I'm thinking, like this area is the more whimsical part of the park, because you have the little village, which I should call, what should I call it? Fish Town? No. Stinky Town. I don't know. That's a stupid name. Okay, I don't know what to name the village, but the village is over here. It's more dark, more dank, more dirty. And then over here with the wooden coaster, it's a little bit more uplifted with the village type of esque camp with the gypsies. It feels like lighter. So making the tents more whimsical felt appropriate to me. And again, I'm just thinking, like, when I think of gypsy, I think of like Hunchback of Notre Dame. So they have all the festivals and the tents, and I think that's what kind of inspired me to do these tent type of thing. And it made a different type of environment over here. And I felt like this area really pulled itself together toward the end as I figured out my different peaks of roofs and stuff like that, and giving it a tent type feel. Yeah, so the station here for the wooden coaster changes a couple times here. It's kind of wild. But I have first figured out that, okay, I put down my peak. That will dictate where the rest of the tent will lay on the ground, and then you go from there. So I kind of had this two tent intersected type of thing, and then kind of just spread out the fabric, and it's just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then added wooden poles, because I think wooden poles gives that clue in your head. Oh, it's made of wood, cloth, rope. Okay, it's a tent. Versus if I take a wall piece and if I make it gray and then add, let's say, cubes to that gray wall, now it looks like a concrete wall. there's always those little subtle clues that will give away what this item is. That's why, again, I love how Parkitect uses no textures, except for maybe the brick walls, right? But like your generic wall is blank. It's a empty canvas. That's perfect. The moment I changed its color, it has now changed material. That's wonderful. So a quick note, I decided to add some carpets on the floor, so I'm thinking like the gypsies would put down carpets to kind of make the place more homely like, and so I decided to put down a couple more carpets. I don't show it here in this time lapse, so you'll see in the tour there's a whole bunch of carpets on the floor. There was a concept art that I pulled from ArtStation that looked really nice, so I used that as my inspiration. And then I needed to add also, because since these are gypsies, they move around, they're nomads, I built a wagon that made sense to kind of be part of it. Now in the Dark Moor, there are wagons, I think, in front of the werewolf coaster. Yes, there is. So that was my inspiration, was to pull from there, was to pull the wagons. And so this one's just kind of nice to just build a simple wagon. I like that the wheels were recolorable now since the 1.10 update. That really helped make this wagon a little bit more believable, in my opinion. Now I wish we had wagon wheels that were diagonal. You can do that with Transform Anarchy, but in vanilla, can't do that. But I wanted to make some more wagons. I only built one wagon in this area. Yeah, I only built one, but that's okay. Building one is just fine. Didn't want to go like over the top with this one. It's just my simple shape shenanigans that I do. So it's all mostly made out of cubes and cylinders. You kind of see how the wagon's kind of taking shape. So I would imagine that there will be more wagons actually inside the bigger tents. So let's say they set up camp, they open their wagon, they take out the tents, and then they make these giant banquet halls or staging areas or whatever the case may be. I don't know what else they would do. But you kind of see here how adding the details to an area. See, I find that the fun part for me, when finally getting an area anchored, after you get your main POIs, your buildings, the fun part for me is doing the detailing. So after those buildings are set, I go in and, place a couple barrels here, a couple boxes over there, add a pile of dirt over there, maybe some scattered paper over there, adding those little carpets, maybe some candles. That's where it starts breathing life, because those little details basically represent life, because those little items have been placed by a person. Maybe they were working on a project, or they were painting a thing that you don't know what they were doing, but it kind of it's like a picture of life right there with those little details. So like the little campfire adds a little detail. That's my favorite part about doing any of these projects, is those little dinky little details that I get to put in. So this last little building I quickly want to talk about is just a quick little I think it's just it's a hot dog stand. Yes, it's a hot dog stand. I just wanted to make a third little tent, because I already had a purple one, a red one. I'm like, oh, a yellow one would make sense for me. So I put that in just to kind of round out the area and make a place for people to eat, because the furthest one would be the village, and that's already down the riverbank, or not the riverbank, the lake side. It's already pretty far up to the left-hand side of the screen. So having a second restaurant over here made logical sense, especially for a theme park. Because I'm also thinking I don't want guests walking too far for a thing. Because if I was at a park and there was only one food mart, that would be actually exhausting, going from one part of the park to the other part, and you're tired by the time you get there. So I try to sprinkle around all these food places. So here comes the big build, or the big POI you want to call, for this park. The one I said from the beginning what I wanted to do was to make Frankenstein's Manor on top of the hill. So you can saw me real quick. I deleted that Manor that Silverette built, which is beautiful by the way, but I was like, nah, this has to go. I have to build my own manor. And this one's completely inspired by the Monsters Unchained dark ride that will be at Darkmoor in Dark Universe. So I just found a whole bunch of pictures. Now, BioReconstruct on X, he's the guy, had all the pictures of Epic Universe in construction. I took every single, I saved every single picture that he posted, and I had like full on details of this ride. I mean, the show building itself is massive, but for my sakes, my ride's going to be a little bit more smaller, more conservative in a way, because again, I also have a budget. But again, my budget right now, oh man, $59,000. Yeah, I had some really good money here. So I can go full detail at this point. I didn't have to worry about how the operations of the park was running, because at this point, with the 2 coasters, and I think I only had 2 flat rides at this moment, so 4 attractions, money was being printed. I was doing really well, actually. Now, in this goal scenario, I needed 500 guests. That's what was the hard part. I needed to build a couple more attractions to then meet that goal. And that's when I added this ride would be the Ghost Mansion Dark Ride. And I add 2 more flat rides to the roster, ending up to have 7 attractions. But you can see here, I'm just playing around with some of the pieces, getting feeling my look to it. Now, Frankenstein's Manor is kind of like, it's a mix between a manor and a castle. You have this very archway type of entrance area where you walk into. You have these very tall windows, very tall peaked roofs. And then there's this giant central tower that houses antennas on top that harness electricity to then funnel into, let's say, Frankenstein's lab. That's, I think, what they're aiming for. So I was just kind of just mimicking the pictures I saw all over BioReconstruct's X. Like, that's all I saw. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try to mimic this the best I can. And in a AstroTron flare. I wasn't going to go like full detail because that would take me forever. And I'm always somewhat half lazy on my execution. But sometimes that's just kind of how I roll, honestly. So I'm doing some interlocking of shapes to giving off some like border accents. Yeah, this didn't stay long, did it? Nope, I delete that all off. Yep, it's gone, and then off to do a new thing. But yeah, just the color scheme for this one was interesting because I went for a dark gray and a tannish accent on like the borders and like the ledges. It actually worked out really well, and then I knew the roof had to be purple because purple and spooky go well together. Just how it is. I'm not going to try to change that at all. So that's what I did. And then figure out the shape of the building. Because I knew that this part of the building would be the facade and the rest of the building would be a show building for the dark ride. So I'm trying to remember how many dark rides I've designed in this campaign series. We did one in Batavia Key. That was the pirate map. I designed one for Legoland. That was Highway Hijinks. I designed... Man, I don't remember the other ones. Because at this point, this is map number 26. Oof. That was a lot of maps. Man. This build series have been quite a roller coaster. Ups and downs of random things, and I kind of like find it wild that I got this far. So, enough remembering my past dues. Right now, I'm just figuring out basically the facade's limits before it turns into a show building. And then finishing off the end caps of the side of the building here. So this would be like I would say these are like rooms, I'm assuming. Like the, what was it called? Like a gallery or a, what's the other, drinking room? Maybe the library. Like those are like other rooms that would have big windows off the side. And kind of like your supporting accents of the building. Now, I didn't research this before recording, but I don't know what the style. Oh no, this is Gothic. I just reminded myself. This is like Gothic architecture. So yeah, Frankenstein's Manor kind of resembles a church / Ooh, what else is Gothic? Castle, church. Yeah, that's Gothic. And a lot of towers, buttresses. What else? gingerbreading of some sort, and then like high peaked roofs. So, like, that's a weird thing about Gothic. So that's kind of what this is kind of resembling, isn't it? So this is a cool moment of designing philosophy that happens. So I built the tower, didn't like it. I actually sat on that for about a day. Came back, logged back on, saw the tower, didn't like it. It didn't feel big enough because I found out that the tower was actually the same size as the Banshee roller coaster station. It was the same size. I was bothered by that because in my head, this is supposed to be some grand structure. So the tower has to be bigger than a grid space. So that's what I did. I destroyed it, saved the pieces off to the side that I wanted. So you can see that I have some hexagons and some roof pieces and some towers. Like, I kept those pieces because I like those colors, like those shapes. Put them to the side to kind of like hold them still. And then made the tower just bigger than a grid space. That helped immensely. And then redoing this brickwork. Adding the stonework kind of like, how do you, stepped. Yeah, stepped. I would call it stepped. That adds more of like a strength to the tower because this tower has to house that electrical device that Dr. Frankenstein made. So it made sense to do that. And then redo the second two little towers near the front of the building. Made them a little bit smaller to suggest that this tower is even taller. So I'm doing the forced perspective thing. Even though it doesn't work the same in Parkitect because of the angle that we're in. But I'm imagining in my head, if I was at the bottom of the pathway as a guest looking up, I would see the tower get taller. That's what I want. So now adding the next part where the tower actually, when I was looking at the pictures of the building, the tower actually goes out a little bit bigger. And it has this like a little alcove that's carved out where a window will sit, which I put in. And then it kind of just has 4 little towers on the corners, like little buttresses. And then castle trimming. And then it goes into a roof. And then your 5 antennas are on top of those said roof peaks. And that kind of just sold it for me. Like, okay, I made a better tower. This looks better. So I'm basically saying that when it comes down to certain things, if you're not 100% with it, it's absolutely okay to start completely over. Give yourself a day or so, look at it, kind of let it stew, and then you're like, I don't love it. Start over. Take that sledgehammer, destroy it, and start over. And I'll not necessarily guaranteeing it, but it will make it better. Because I think I did do that by changing it completely. And I feel like the tower is just more lively with it. Now, with this tower right here, right now, I think I shortened it a little bit because I think it was a little too high by a couple blocks. So that was an easy fix. Blueprint it, cut off a little bit off the bottom, and then place it down a little bit closer to the ground. And it actually balanced itself out. Because from here, it looks a little top heavy for me. So yeah, I think it just lowered a little bit. You can kind of tell. Not by a lot, actually. It kind of did. So on to making this like electrical component / machinery. So I looked at the one that's on the actual building in Dark Universe. And I was like, I kind of can replicate it, but I also want to do my own thing. So I took the new cable wheel animated piece from the Western pack, made one glowing, one black, and then switched the rotations of them so that it looks like it's like spinning. You can kind of see when I unpause it. It kind of spins in opposite directions, kind of making it like this lighting effect. And then added some pipes. Oh no, here I do the actual oh, here it is. No, here's the lowering part of it. Let's see how far it goes. Oh yeah, there, that's better. Actually, yeah, it lowered it. Huh. Yeah, I lowered it a lot actually. Yeah, this looks better. I'm glad I actually recorded that. I forgot I did that. So, back to the mechanical part. So the wheels are just, opposite rotations, makes this weird, like, glitching effect. But in game it works for me because then it looks like electricity is like pulsating in this machine. And then I added some orb lights down the pipes, and then figured out some of my lighting intensity. Here's a point where I tested out like the full brightness of it, and that's way too bright. That's gonna blind people. And so I decided to tone it down and then animate it. That took a good 20 20 minutes of pain and suffering of putting in all these little animation bits. You can kind of see how I'm just putting it together. Like, it takes a special crazy person to do this, because I've done lighting animations for other projects. They take a while. My big dream would try to do like an animation of an actual like screen, but there's like no way. I don't think Parkitect would be able to handle it. Maybe it can, but man, that would require me to just thinking about it makes me cry. So yeah, just electricity just pulsating down the pipes to the lab, and then you can just go from there. So you can kind of see the building kind of like looks really, really nice. So on to building the actual dark ride. So in this, I wanted to have 2 scenes. Now, this ride is actually just based off the book Frankenstein. Just a regular old book. Frankenstein making the monster getting out, the monster destroying things or being misunderstood, and then dying at the burning windmill. That's the whole point of this ride. So the first scene is going to be the Frankenstein's lab with the monster being reanimated. And then the last scene is going to be Frankenstein walking to the windmill in the distance before it catches on fire. And so I would also imagine there will be one more scene this ride would have dictating the windmill on fire, but I didn't want to show that because I felt like it's a little too gruesome maybe for a game, especially like for Parkitect. But for me, I was like, I don't need to make a burning part. I can make it like a forced perspective shot. But we'll talk about that scene after I build the lab first. So actually, this is so funny because I talked about earlier about not doing transfer tracks. And I just remember I did a transfer thing, kind of. I did a maintenance door bay. So that the thought process and the logic is you would take a vehicle off the track and then hoist it over this little crane and then drop it down to the maintenance area, work on the vehicle, and then bring it back up and then put it back on the ride. There are things like this that exist on certain dark rides, certain facilities. I know that like Tower of Terror has this. Some other coasters have this type of like crane gimbal system. So I felt like, yeah, I can add some realism to this. Let's add this little back area. And since this little back area kind of made sense to be a backstage area because it was kind of like off to the corner, it made sense. Oh, quick remark. I made a boo-boo and I left a wall in the pathway and all the guests got stuck. And I got this complaint, I can't get to the ride. I'm like, what do you mean you can't get to the ride? I'm like, oh, I put a path and a wall underneath it. Okay, delete it. And so had to go save some guests. I've only done that a handful of times, but I caught myself this round. So with this scene, it's just supposed to be Frankenstein's lab. And this is where the fun, I think I have the most fun in this game, is taking a scene and detailing it like non-stop. So I knew I wanted to use this archway gear thing because it rotates. I'm like, okay, movement also helps in a scene, especially when there's no animatronics in this game. Now, that would be awesome if we had animatronics added to Parkitect. Then I added some like wooden scaffolding on the top, suggesting that this is the top of the tower maybe. And go from there. Just making it look like it's ruined, falling apart, broken. So I add some cubes and then borders to kind of make the wood pieces different sizes. And then kind of inlaid cylinders and discs. And then I use that spinning... derrick wheel it's called. Okay, derrick wheel. So I interlock 2 of them at opposite rotations. That helps too. You can kind of see the idea of like I'm trying to have this electricity whirling inside this machine. That's kind of the idea here. And then make it bright and bright. And then using the cable pieces as intended. They are cable. So that's fun to do. So I had different piles of them and then that's it. Then in the center of the room, I wanted the table where the monster would be reanimated from. Oh yeah, that was an idea. Use a skeleton piece to kind of cheat my way to a Frankenstein monster, but didn't work out. Oh, and then while I was building, I had a weird vandal shenanigans happen, where I had a lot of vandals in my park, even though my park was like at full decoration value. So I don't know where that came from. So I had to go like, ban a couple vandals. Fix some benches and lamps. So on to building the Frankenstein on the table. So when it comes to creating creatures in this game, I try to make them minimalistic as possible to kind of showcase the identifying marks of a creature, because in this game you can't go full detail sometimes because of how the shapes kind of get placed in this game. Now if you had, like, you know, Transformer Anarchy or Construction Anarchy, yeah, you can go wild with the detail, but since I'm playing vanilla, I have some restrictions. But the restrictions aren't necessarily bad. It adds a sense of problem solving for me. So it's just a simple Frankenstein monster. Purple, green skin. And then on top, I wanted to add the laser or whatever, a Tesla coil laser that kind of brings the monster to life because of electricity. Again, has no basis in science at all. I don't think it's even possible to reanimate a body because of electricity. I know we have electricity in our, like, nerves, but it's not like can't just jolt somebody back to life with electricity. It's just not possible. But it's kind of fun to think about. It's fun for a sci-fi slash, yeah, it's sci-fi. I would call it sci-fi. Yeah, science fantasy. Yes, this is a sci-fi, steampunk sci-fi. Without the steam. Huh, that's what wild. So I just add a lights and some rings. I love that we have those rings now. Those Tauruses, I think they're called. Adds the really great detail that I love adding. And I just animate those later off screen. Because why not? Things need to be animated in my park. And just doing this area really made this ride more believable in my eye. And just made this just so much better. So finishing up the details here, adding some more pipes, adding some more lights, fixing up some of the cables. I don't think you see it in this time lapse because I kind of skipped through, but I did add some, like, pieces of paper on the floor using cubes, just a little bit above the floorboard, suggesting that papers and plans were thrown all over the place because Dr. Frankenstein's working wildly on this, doing this thing here and there. Yeah, adding those little details again bring life to this map. There's my quick little hidden Mickey. I don't know why I did that, but I just I'm going to make a hidden Mickey with the oozing goo from the containers. Now on to the last scene that I wanted to add. This is Frankenstein walking away from the villagers because the villagers are all mad trying to hunt him down, and he's walking to a safe place, which would be the windmill, which catches on fire. Now, I can't remember if the book... I think the monster saves Frankenstein, and then the monster dies in the fire. But I think that's what happens. See, it's so funny because I'm thinking of Frankenweenie, which is the Tim Burton version, which is about a boy and his dog. He reanimates the dog back to life. I think that follows the same veins as the book of Frankenstein. But it's kind of funny. Frankenweenie is just a funny little movie. So here's the windmill out of hexagon shapes, and it's a small windmill. So the idea here is that it's a forced perspective shot. So the monster's going to be up toward the track, and then the windmill will be in the background, and then the monster's going to be in the foreground, and we're having this sense of like, okay, he's traveling to the windmill. That's what was the sense here, and it's kind of like a moment before the climax, basically, because the windmill catches fire, right? Man, I really should have made a catching on fire windmill like Dark Universe. That would have been cool. I probably could have done it, but I didn't do it in this round of building, which is okay. So you can see here, I'm just going to build Frankenstein's monster, a very big version of it just to make it very obvious, and then add some features on it of a monster-esque person. I mean, again, Frankenstein's monster is made of different pieces of people, I'm assuming. Yeah, sewed together, put together. And then there you go. There's Frankenstein's monster walking toward the windmill. And then added a gradient of blue in the background for the walls to kind of give it a lighter to darker tone. Because it's supposed to be like dusk or nighttime. Yeah, I would say nighttime. most dark rides are based in nighttime because it's just easier to kind of hide those imperfections, or to hide the show building itself. Like all of Pirates of the Caribbean, if you think about it, is all in the dark, all nighttime. There's no daytime. It's all night and the moonlight. And then off to the last attraction to the entire park. Actually, it's not the last attraction. I added another flat ride up toward the Manor, but this one I wanted to add a Kraken pit, just to add an additional monster to my park, because at this point I felt like I was already doing the theme of adding monsters to the park, so everything was themed to a monster. Banshee, which is a ghost. Frankenstein's monster is Frankenstein's monster. Werewolf, and now a Kraken. Okay, it all ties together. This is a monster-themed park. So, like Darkmoor, or Dark Universe, but whimsical in a way, not as dark, you wouldn't say. So yeah, you can just see I just added tentacles everywhere and rocks, and kind of like an additional ride. I think this works well. It's kind of like off the beaten path, but I didn't mind. It adds... Honestly, the purpose of adding this ride was to bump my population, because I needed to reach that goal, which I did, which we'll see in the tour soon. So yeah, just adding the last tentacle. So I'm going to leave you guys here. I'm going to quickly finish that tentacle, and we're going to go over to the park and see how it's running. Okay, let's go see if I can win this scenario. It has started raining, and this is what makes me concerned, because I've had this green bar disappear on me 3 times now. So, hopefully this holds still, because I need to have 100% happy... Well, I need... What's the goal again? Shoot. Let me go look again. 75% happiness rating. Okay. Let's pray I win this, because this is quite annoying that I don't keep winning this. So... Push play. It started raining. Let's see if I get there. Fast forward. I don't want to wait. Let's go see. I need to win the scenario. Yes. Okay. We got it. Cool. Alright then. Scenario has been beaten. And it stopped raining too. Wow. That was a struggle and a half, guys. This was a interesting map to work on. Because... thinking of ideas for a spooky place and on a terrain that's very uneven was quite difficult to do. But at the end of it, I think I learned some things here and there about my design process and things like that. But let's take a tour of the park. So Zalgonia is done. It is complete with, let me count my attractions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 attractions. Actually, this is like very little rides. It's not like my RoboPark one. That had a lot of rides in it. That at least it had 8 or 9. Well, it had 3 coasters. No, it had 4 coasters. And a good pile of flat rides. Yeah, that park had at least 12 rides. This only has 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7. Yes, 7 rides. So, the first coaster that was constructed was the Banshee. This was kind of mimicking the Banshee coaster in... Oh man, I forgot which park. I'm not going to butcher it. But I know it's from a Six Flags park. Well, it's owned by Six Flags, but it used to be owned by Cedar Fair. But that was a B&M coaster, so I kind of modeled that after that. And then this kind of is imitating Nemesis from Alton Towers. So that's kind of what my idea here was for that. Again, this coaster has been here the longest. It's been generating me the most money. Actually, it can tell me how much it's generated in its lifetime. Let's go see how much. Oh, total profits, $157,000. Total revenue, $231,000. Yeah, this guy's been a workhorse. That's good. And let's go down to the village of Zalgonia. I'm going to call it that. Might as well. So it's just a little ramshackled village of a like a spookiness area. I kind of was imitating this after some of the pictures of Darkmoor from Epic Universe, or Dark Universe as it's called. I kind of like the aesthetic. I kind of like how the buildings kind of just like mashed up together, and it kind of sits in this valley. Then we kind of venture up toward some of the other flat rides I added. This guy was added in about, I think, halfway through the playthrough because I needed another flat ride to kind of generate income. And then over here is our Gypsy Camp. This is kind of, again, modeled after the Darkmoor stuff from Epic Universe. And this is the wooden coaster, the Werewolf. So I felt that was fitting because the first coaster that I built was Banshee, so that's a monster. And this is Werewolf. Okay, that's another monster. And then I proceed to do more monsters by doing Frankenstein's Manor up here, the gigantic dark ride of the area. So this one's kind of a basic ripoff of what's happening at Epic Universe. This is good. This is modeled after the epic dark ride in Dark Universe called Monsters Unchained. So I kind of just copied it. And I kind of like the idea of just copying some things because it gives you your inspiration. And I kind of did my own twist on things, kind of like imitate the look of the manor. But I did love doing show scenes for this. Like, so here's Frankenstein being brought to life with electricity. So building a lab was pretty fun too with some of the new pieces we got. And then I did the last scene where the Frankenstein's monster is going to head over to the windmill. So this is kind of a forced perspective type of thing. That was kind of fun to do too. But yeah, you can kind of see how the park kind of put itself together. And being on top of the main mountain here, or the main hill of this map, really makes it like dramatic. Because you just imagine if you were sitting down here in the village and you see that from that distance, that's a perfect Photoshop, like photo spot. You just take the picture, there it is, there's the wonderful manor, and then that's going to drag you up there because you're like, well, I want to see what that is. The last attraction that was added in here was a last second flat ride. This is kind of like a Kraken's lair, Kraken pit type of thing. Just wanted to make something monstrous again. I am doing monster themed at this moment, so it seems like everything has a monster in it. So Banshee, Werewolf, Frankenstein's monster, and a Kraken or a squid. I could try to add like some, I don't know, a Dracula of some sort, but I'm not going to push it. I want to see what this looks like at night. Well, now it started raining. Nighttime looks like nighttime. Yep, it has some lights. Maybe I should just disable some of these lights. I'm not really neither bothered or concerned about it. I'm not really concerned about it. Yeah, some dark areas. Like this is really dark back here, but I really don't want to add lights because I'm kind of lazy. But yeah, this is my park so far. And how many guests do we have at the moment? 807, that's pretty good. With about 3,000 income, that's pretty snazzy. Yeah. There's no else to talk about besides just looking at how this park is built. So yeah, this is basically done. So we're going to save it. Let's save it. Zalgonia, save. And we should see what the map, or what the thing gives us now. It's probably going to be the manor. Yep. There's the manor. Wonderful. I finished Zalgonia. It is now complete. And then we get the bonus level. There's the bonus level. Okay, that's sick. Okay, I didn't know the animation did that. That's really cool. So cake comes out of the ocean, 5 candles get plopped down, and there it is. Happy Co Harbor. Oh no, sorry, Happy Co Bakery. Oh man, this is the bonus level for the original campaign. So to unlock this map, you need to just complete the campaign. That's all you need to do. And you also need to have both DLCs installed, because when I designed this map, I used DLC items, and so Sebastian's like, oh well, I have to make it. The requirement has to be these 2 things. I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because I used the new trees, I used some, I think, some temple stuff. So that could be the next map we go to play on, because I did do all 26 levels. Oh boy, this has been a... How long have we been doing this? About 2-3 years now. I could go back and get gold again, but I already got that achievement. So I don't really need to worry myself about that. Now, let's see here. There's a tactile celebrating 5th anniversary of Parkitect. Right now, they're finishing up touches. The cake are close to... Okay. Yeah, that... We'll see if I even touch that map. I might later. But I do want to focus on Tiny Disneyland. I want to finish that project first. And then maybe come back to do Happy Coal Bakery. And then I'll build something around that. Like, again, I haven't thought of what to do yet. Actually, here, let me just go look. I'm just curious again, because I forgot what I did to the map. Okay, we got a building. We got... Oh yeah, my sign. Okay, and then the actual bakery itself. And then how much land do I have? I give myself a lot of land. Yes, and then I gave myself buyable, purchasable property. Okay, so there's enough here to do something with. I just don't have an idea what could go into a bakery type of thing. So yeah, I won't worry about it. But I'm going to, yeah, focus on Tiny Disneyland, and then we'll go from there. But thank you guys for watching. That was a really... Sorry for the wait. Again, I've been dealing with some personal stuff at home, but I wanted to finish this park as soon as I can. I got to it, and I finished said Zalgonia. So that was 26 maps in total. There is a additional Taste of Adventure DLC campaign that's about 10 more levels. And then there is the idea of doing campaign stuff, now custom campaigns from community members. Because I have my already sent out Realms of Adventure. There's an RCT campaign that's out too, so that was cool. But Realms of Adventure, I could venture and play my maps, but it's kind of weird to play my maps when I know them personally. Like, I know every single map. That would, I think, be kind of weird to do so. I could also do another project where I show you guys how I make scenarios. I've done that before in my videos in the way past of this channel, but they don't make a lot of views. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling. So thank you guys for watching. I will probably work on the next video will be Tiny Disneyland, and then we'll go from there. So I'll see you guys in the next video. So I'll see you later. Bye.